Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. All right, so I've been pretty excited to record this episode for some time now, and when you hear it, I will actually already be on maternity leave. I actually might be kind of near the end of my maternity leave, depending on how long I ultimately end up taking off, which I'm going to talk about on this episode. But today I'm sharing some tips I've learned, plus other details on like exactly what I've done. Like I'm giving you the blueprint to prepare for and plan about a 2.5 month maternity leave from my business as a first-time mom and as someone who's owned a business for about 6 years now, who has a team, but has never really planned a break like this. Like I've never taken this much intentional time away from my business where I'm truly unplugging. So whether you're planning a maternity leave for yourself, or maybe you just want to take a sabbatical, or you're going to go travel and you want a really long vacation from your business, whatever it is, I think you're going to enjoy these tips. Again, I really do think what I'm sharing can apply to like a long vacation, like maybe you're traveling somewhere for multiple months, or even just like a 2-week vacation, whatever it is. So anyway, I hope you get a lot from this episode, sharing all kinds of tips. Let's dive in. All right, so like I already said, I'm a first-time mom, so this is new to me. I'm going to share what I did to prep for my maternity leave, but I honestly don't know how well to work, right? Or where it might end up being lacking. I thought about not even doing an episode on this because I'm like, who am I to think I have this figured out as someone doing this for the first time? But I do think what I've done is really like well set up, but it might be lacking in some areas. So I'm going to actually record another episode after this one, after my maternity leave's over, and like do a part 2 of like what went well, what didn't, anything I'd changed from this plan, any takeaways, all of that kind of stuff. But I wanted to record it beforehand. So it's just like, here's straight up what I'm planning before it's happened. So I'm pretty detail oriented when it comes to business. So I really do think I covered all my grounds, but again, it's hard to know what to expect really. And as I'm recording this episode, I'm about to be 37 weeks pregnant. I'm starting my maternity leave very soon. And I've been slowly winding down for about 2 weeks now. So like slowly tapering off how many hours I'm working, where I actually have had a few work days where I've worked maybe just 2 hours because I've been doing other stuff. Like maybe I'm at doctor's appointments and then doing something for the nursery or whatever it is. So I've been slowly winding down and I feel good about what I've done to prep. I feel excited about taking time off to be with my new baby and letting my business, which is so important to me and I love so much, but like setting it up well for success and then letting it be something I'm paying less attention to than normal for a little while. So to start, let me tell you what I envision my maternity leave looking like and what my goal for it is. Again, as you are hearing this, I am nearing the end of my maternity leave. So you actually have already gotten to see a lot of this play out, but I want to tell you like what I'm envisioning it looking like. And as for you, as you're planning your own time away for your business, whether it's for a maternity leave or a vacation, like I said, I think it's good to start with this question of what do I think I want this to look like? And like keep evaluating it throughout the planning period and you'll come up with new things. But I did not know the answer to this when I first got pregnant. I was kind of like, how long do people even take for a maternity leave? Like, there's, corporate jobs that give a certain amount of time or maybe give no time even. And then as business owners, you hear people take as little as like a week off and 2 weeks off to like months off. So it's hard to know. And for me, I was like, I don't know what I want to look like. And I figured it out over time. So here's kind of what I'm thinking I want to look like and what it will look like to summarize wise before I get into the tips. So for me, I'm starting my maternity leave officially about 15 days before my due date. And I know due dates are just estimates. Their actually technical term is estimated due date. And I actually don't expect my baby to come on the due date. Interestingly, in my mind, I'm expecting it to be later, like a week later, maybe even a little longer than that. Adam is thinking earlier. We actually have we both wrote down, here's our guess for the date he'll arrive. So we'll see who's closer once that actually happens. But we both have a different guess there. But regardless, I knew I didn't want to have important meetings or a launch or whatever else happening a week before my due date and then have the baby come early, or just me be totally burnt out on work and in baby mode and not feeling like doing the things and kind of my mind's in too many places. And then, having to cancel meetings because you're oh, sorry, I missed your meeting because my baby actually came early or whatever. So I did not want to have to deal with any of that. So with starting the leave earlier than baby's expected arrival, I have a list of personal fun things I want to do as I wait for him to come during the early maternity leave period, which again might be why I'm kind of okay at this point with the idea of him coming a little later. Obviously not dangerously late, but I'm I have this stuff I want to do on this list. And so throughout my pregnancy, I've been adding to this list. I actually have a page in my full focus planner where I called it early maternity leave, fun stuff, something like that. And I've been adding things to it. So some things on my list, if you're curious, read a fun fiction novel, maybe 2 actually, because the one I'm almost done with right now, the first one I started, I'm almost done with. And so maybe 2 fun fiction books, which I'm always reading, but that's something in particular of spending maybe more time reading as I'm not working in early maternity leave. Another thing I want to do, I purchased Nancy Ray's Integrated Life online course, which is truly a lifestyle, marriage, faith, family type of online course. And I want to take more of that. So I've already kind of started on it, but some intentional time doing that sounds really fun to me for early maternity leave. Extra time each day in prayer, writing, journaling, praying over the birth experience, praying for my baby and this new season as we enter it. So just more time to do that because I know that will become a lot more scarce when he's actually here and I'm in active maternity leave mode. Finish up the nursery all the way. Meal prep with my mother-in-law. So she's coming to visit for 2 or 3 days and we are going to be making some freezer meals, which is fun. So that's something that will be an early maternity leave item. Some blogging. So I'm going to do a blog on first trimester products I've been loving, blog my maternity session, my most recent one with links to outfits and stuff. So some things like that, that's technically work, but feels more like work that doesn't have to be done. So it kind of falls into this early maternity leave time. Hangouts with girlfriends, getting some one-on-one time in with friends before he arrives. And then some organizing stuff in our house. There's some various closets I'd love to take everything out of and then put everything back in and get it all ready to go. And then walking more and doing yoga more and some things like that and just focusing on self-care in that way and taking naps. Those are kind of some of my things. So doesn't that all sound really great, right? You can see why I'm very excited to start maternity leave next week. All that sounds very fun to me, kind of a little vacation time in a bit. So that's some of what I want to do with those 15-ish days before my due date, or if he comes later, maybe 20 days or whatever it is. So I want to have fun. I want to relax and have some time also with Adam before he arrives to soak up last times of which just the 2 of us. So that's the first thing I knew. I knew I wanted to start it early and I did not want a maternity leave that starts on my due date. The last big important thing on my calendar is a call with my Book.Designer students. And that will be next week from the time I'm recording this on a Tuesday. And then basically the next day is kind of when I'm thinking everything starts. Other things I knew when planning, I knew I wanted at least 2 months off from when my due date happened, which for me meant content planned and me being able to completely step away from my laptop, step away from the office, inbox, all of it, all the way through the beginning of November. So will I work some during that time? Yes, actually, because the nature of my business and the way I want to run it, honestly, I would not say this is a requirement, but more of how I'm choosing to show up means that I'm still going to be doing some things. I will not be completely unplugged, but I also don't want to be I don't want to completely unplug and have no idea what's going on in my business and stop posting on social media. I don't want that personally. So I made a list actually of everything I'm responsible for maintaining during my leave. And my team knows what those things are. And I have some of them as like recurring events on my calendar. So like I've grouped stuff together. As an example, on the 15th of every month, like I'm doing these 5 things. And on the 1st of every month, I'm doing these 5 things, that sort of stuff. I also knew I didn't want to be in my inbox at all, literally at all. So I've set up my life so that I don't have to be in the inbox. I probably will be in there a little bit for like promotional emails, or like my grandmother emails me somewhat often. So like some of those kind of things, but I'm going to have an autoresponder in my personal inbox. And then my team will be in there doing customer support and all that kind of stuff as usual. I also knew I didn't want any meetings, not a single one on my calendar during leave. I also did not want one like pending early November that I'm going to have to come back to immediately having a meeting or podcast interview or something. I also knew I didn't want any client projects open. And I knew I wanted podcast episodes figured out so I didn't have to record any on my maternity leave if I didn't want to, which I'm going to get into that of how I prepped for all of that. I also knew I wanted to stay active in my Booked Out Designer student Facebook community from my phone during leave, which I plan to do. And I think that'll be life-giving for me. I don't think I'll be as active in it as I am not on maternity leave, but I do want to be in there at least once a week being like, okay, I'm going to look through people's questions and give some input on them. So yeah, and I knew I wanted out of my inbox completely and out of communication in a sense with anyone except for my main team. So that's the main things I identified as needs for all of this before I went into planning. Again, what you decide might be totally different. You might look at that list and be like, Elizabeth, you're planning to keep airing podcasts. I don't want to do that. I want no podcasts, or I don't want to show up on social media at all, or I actually prefer to still be in my inbox. I mean, whatever it is. So that's what I came up with though. And some of that has evolved and changed throughout my pregnancy because I started planning this, which I'm about to talk about, early on. So yeah, just figure out what you want and what you need and think about your own personality and how you like to operate your business, knowing that what's right for one person might not be right for you. So now I want to get into some tips though. And I want to explain more of what I did to prep and what all of those areas of my business I just talked about, what all the things I do is going to look like with time off. So here are my tips. The first tip, very important one, I think. Start planning and prepping as soon as you have excitement and energy around it. And do not wait until it's almost time for the leave. So logically, I think we can think about this leave, this vacation, your due date, whatever it is, it's months and months away. So why plan for it now? And at least when it comes to a baby on the way, that energy you have in the second trimester thinking about time off might be completely gone by the time you're about to pop. You might be like, I don't even care anymore about making this super organized. I'm just ready for my baby to get here, or I'm feeling really tired or whatever it is. And so I would say you'll thank yourself for working on it earlier, even though it might feel like there's less to do and oh my gosh, I'm only 3 months pregnant. Why am I working on this right now? But I'm really glad in my situation that I started on it all sooner. So I started working on my maternity leave stuff literally during the first trimester, which again, might sound crazy early, but I have a business where I have multiple products offered. I had 3 launches during my pregnancy. And I work with about 10 contractors on and off and have a team of 2 people who are more in the business day in and day out. So it's a lot to think through, a lot of people to communicate with, a lot of moving parts, and a lot of stuff that I'm okay, I'm the person that does this, but it still needs to be done when I'm on leave. So I need to make sure someone else knows how to do it, that kind of stuff. And I enjoyed thinking about it early on in my pregnancy because thinking about myself being completely out of my business for a few months gave me a really good perspective on what needed to be done before then and what stuff in my business only I knew how to do. Like I just said, which you don't want when you're going to exit for that long. You don't want there to be something really important that you do, let's say every single week, and no one even realizes you do it. And it has to be done. You don't want to be the only person able to figure things out or to troubleshoot or whatever it is. So I think honestly, this pregnancy and having a baby is really setting up my business super well, in ways that it needed to change with having more help and having more people knowing how to do more things. So for me, starting to prep and plan looked like researching tips from others, things like what you're doing right now with this podcast episode. But I did a lot of that of reading about, okay, how are people planning maternity leaves. I talked to business owner friends who had also had babies and planned leaves. And it also looked like me making a Google Drive folder, which started with just one list in it. When I'm thinking through like, okay, what do I need to teach team members? What dates would I want off? What needs to happen before all this? And whenever I felt up for it, I would go to that Google Drive folder and I would start working on it. Again, it started with like one document in there and turned into about 10, which I'm going to talk about next. But yeah, like just work on it when you feel like it, no matter how far away the vacation, the sabbatical, the baby due date, whatever it is, no matter how far away it is for you, when you feel the motivation, just do it. Trust me, because like I'm so grateful. Again, right now I'm recording this at like 37 weeks pregnant. And I'm like, I don't want to have to be coming up with all these solutions right now. Like, I'm so grateful it was already decided, already like ready to go before this point. Okay, so my second tip, and this is the one I'm going to end up talking about the longest, I'm literally going to give you exactly what I did for this. But my second tip is to make a master folder where everything for your leave lives for both you to access and for your team to access. So I love organization. I love project management. Like I already said, that's something that's like super fun for me. And I treated my maternity leave like a project that I'm in charge of managing. And that mindset around it of like, okay, this is an event that's happening. I am the planner. I'm the executor of this, really kept me organized. And I will say, not to brag on myself, but my team was super impressed with the level of planning and detail I gave them for my leave when we had like our meetings about it. So we were all starting this thing feeling really prepared, all the possibilities and things to note and all that and things to remember all really planned for. So both of them were like, wow, this is awesome. Like you planned so much. Like this is so helpful. So yeah, I feel proud and excited about that. So the master folder, right? It's in our company Google Drive. I called it maternity leave plan. And there are 10 documents in it, but 9 main documents. And again, I started with one document that was like me just thinking through brainstorming, like what needs to happen for this leave. And it evolved into 9 like really well organized documents, all on different topics regarding leave. And so I'm going to walk you through what's in each of those documents. And again, this type of planning would be helpful no matter what you're taking a break for. It just might be less extensive if it's a shorter break than what I'm doing here. So document 1, it's called Important Dates During Leave. So this document has my due date in it and the exact dates I'm planning to take off. So I have an official, this is what we're telling people back in office date. And then I have a date where I'm planning to be like back working some with my team internally. So we're actually thinking like very end of November is when I'm going to be like officially back in office. But then, so that's really longer than 2.5 months. Like I'm saying my maternity leave is, but then I'm going to be back internally before then. So I have all those dates in there. And it also has any company holidays all the way through the end of the year. So team holidays that are during my leave that I want my team to take off from, no, we're not doing customer support that day. You're going to go like have fun with your family. And then things later on that I just went ahead and added, like out of office dates for Christmas and New Year's. Like, again, I'm going to be back in office by then, but like going ahead and putting those in there. And it also has our sale dates for Black Friday this year. So like literally just any kind of important dates people need to know for your maternity leave would be that first document. Document number 2 is called Important Contact Emails and Phone Numbers. So this has the email or phone number or Voxer or whatever it needs to be of every contractor we work with, even if it's someone who's just occasional work, even if it's someone who my team actually communicates with more than me, but especially the people who like I'm their point of contact. And so I say if it's a company, who the contact is the company, the best way to communicate with them, like should you text them, should you email them, are we going to talk to them in our project management system, all that kind of stuff. And again, Abby and Stacy, who are my main team members, they mostly know all this, but it's nice to have it in one spot. And I also added things like my husband's phone number, which again, might sound funny. It's like, why would they need that? Will they need that? I don't know, but I put it in there. I feel like they should have it. So in that document, it's 10 people's contact information who are people we work with in my business, plus my husband, and just kind of like who the point of contact is, what's the best way to reach out to them, why you would need to reach out to them, if at all. So that's kind of almost like an emergency document, right? Like some of that won't be used, but then if it is like there's an issue and someone needs to be reached out to, and it's like, okay, well, Elizabeth's the only person that's talked to this person. Like, how do we email them? What's the best way to contact them? This is going to help with that. All right, and document number 3 is called Communicating with Elizabeth While on Leave. So this document is my plan for how I want information to get to me when there are questions, when there's an issue, and when there are things that like need me specifically while I'm on leave. And each section of my leave has a little bit of a different plan. So like the first few weeks after my baby's here has a different plan than later on when it's like about to be November. And then there's also a section of like, what if there's an emergency and all this other, like, what if this happens, then this, that sort of thing. So like just kind of covering all the grounds. It sounds very Enneagram 6 of me, but like all the different possibilities of like what could happen, what could go wrong, how to like get in touch with me and best communication. So we have a plan there. Document number 4 is called Responsibilities During Leave. So this document is super important and it lists out exactly what each person is in charge of while I'm gone, and not just like the task, but also who is the decision maker on things for that area. So like the question comes in about this and we're like, okay, what do we do here? This person is in charge of making the decision on this. So some of this is what that person's job always is. And some of it is a little more new to my maternity leave because it might be like, I'm typically the ultimate decision maker on this, but during leave, this person is. This helps you give your team autonomy and authority over things when you're not there. And again, it's like, I've had the moment so many times of like, a lot of this stuff we're doing is good, like post maternity leave stuff too. It's just like good business practices to like give people more autonomy. So I also have a full list in this document of exactly what I am still responsible for during my leave so that they know like, okay, this is not something that falls to you. This is something we're going to watch and we're going to see Elizabeth doing. So for example, I'm still doing my Etsy shop. I'm going to keep it open. I'm just going to change the processing time to be a little longer to give me some leeway on doing those orders. I'm still going to be the person posting on Instagram. I'm not having like other people do that for me. I could, like maybe that's what you want to do, right? Like maybe you're like, I'm going to unplug from Instagram and I want someone else to post. You could do that. I'll still be paying all the bills and contractor like invoices that come in each month too. So like when those come in, my team knows to assign them to me and then I'm going to take care of paying them. So those are a few examples of some of the things I'm still doing. But again, it's really helpful to have clarity on this. And I would say this document is one that like you should go over individually with team members even of like, let's talk through exactly what's on this list. How do you feel about it? Are there any questions? That sort of thing. Okay, document number 5, guidelines for specific email circumstances. That's really what it's called. And this document is just random things that happens in our inbox. We get tons of emails, multiple emails a day, obviously, but like a ton of emails a day, it feels like at this point. And I'm not the main person that manages our inbox at all. Stacy is. And so in this document, though, I basically tackle some of the issues that normally I give input on if they come up. And again, some of them are more rare stuff that like doesn't happen that often. Like for example, someone sending like an angry email, like we do not get many of those, but occasionally I will get one that's like kind of odd and like, okay, what's up with this? Why is this person mad? And so like kind of how to deal with that. Some of those kind of things. So guidelines for specific email circumstances, a great one to have. And again, the nice thing about working on this throughout your pregnancy or throughout leading up to the date of your vacation is like we'd have a specific email circumstance happen, right? That we're dealing with as a team. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to add that to the document. Like this is something like I might have forgotten about that happens, but I'm remembering it right now because I'm working on this early. Okay, document 6. Message templates and responders for leave. So I wrote us a bunch of email templates for common questions we get that will be a starting point for Stacy while I'm out. So we went over all the emails together and we made edits and then we added them as a template to our email software. So they're just all in there ready to go. Some examples is things like someone asking me to be a guest on their podcast or speak at their event that's happening during my maternity leave, a request for a brand collaboration, request to schedule a phone call with me to get like advice on something, like pick your brain type calls. All of those, like we have a response for them that Stacy's going to use that we collaborated on and know like we like the answer to. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. All right, and then document 8, or wait, did I say? Oh no, I've skipped one. Document 7, things to make sure we know before leave. So this is a document I was always adding stuff to. Basically, like when I found something where I'm like, okay, I need to make sure my team knows how to do this because right now I'm the only person that knows how, and it might be really minor, but like when I'm out of office completely, I need someone else to know how to do this. I would add it to that document, and then I made sure to like go over it and everything before leave. Document 8, I called it to-dos before leave. This was mostly for me, and I kind of outlined like 2 months out, 2 weeks out, whatever, just random things that need to happen as I thought of them. Okay, and then the last document in this giant folder, it's called Messages to Specific Contractors About Maternity Leave. So like I said, we have a few contractors that we work with regularly, but then there were a few of those contractors that I'm like, okay, I want to email them specifically to tell them like, hi, this is when I'll be out of office. Here's who your main contact at my company will be instead of me. And here's how what we're doing with you will be the same or different than normal. So we sent this email to 4 contractors who are very consistent month in and month out in the business. My podcast editor, my bookkeeper, and my mother-in-law who does customer care for M-Shop customers. And then Becky, who is the life coach inside of my Booked Out Designer program. They're going to get awesome mindset coaching calls with her while I'm on maternity leave. So there's like some stuff to plan around that. So I wrote all the emails to these people, put them all in this document. And I had my team read them so they know what I'm saying and like know that like, okay, hey, I'm sending this email to this person. I'm telling them that you are the main contact now. And I'm telling them this is the plan. So it's like basically everyone got to be on the same page by reading the emails. And I did all this email sending like a month and a half before my due date. So kind of, again, ahead of the game on this. And again, I'd recommend that. Like you don't want to have to be sending that email when you're in early labor, right? So that's all that. And that's my crazy folder. And you might need to have a document for more than what I said. Or you might be like, Elizabeth, I don't need that document you just said. But again, I might be forgetting a document in the plan area that I should have come up with. But that's it. And those are hopefully going to be a great starting point for you. So again, that's my longest tip, but that is to put everything in a Google Drive folder, organize it, go over it with your team too, in addition to you, but start it early, plan it all, and make yourself like a good plan ready to rock. All right, so my third tip. So by the way, I have 6 tips total. So we have quite a few to go here. And again, I hope this helps you so much as you plan whatever you're leaving your business for. So my third tip would be to prep content ahead of time. It will be worth it. So for me, I considered how much podcast content do I want to not have to work on during leave? Do I want to recast old episodes? Do I want to air nothing at all? Do I want to air all new content or a mix? I also would think about content. Do I still want to post on social media? If so, is it planned stuff or am I writing it fresh? What about emails sent out of my email list? All of that kind of stuff. I came up with a plan for what I wanted to do around all of that and kind of asked myself those questions. So that's something you need to do. For me, I ultimately, with the podcast, ended up doing a mix of new podcasts that I pre-recorded and a few recasts. And I'm really proud of this because it's a lot of work doing one podcast every week when you're in office every single workday. But it's especially hard to prep that many in advance, right? Like it took me months to prep all that. I did prepping slowly, which I think is key for me at least. Like some of the interviews you're going to hear during my maternity leave were legit recorded like 3 or 4 months, 5 months even earlier. And I just like held off on saving them so there would be great interview content coming out. For the solo episodes, I outlined and recorded them as I had excitement and energy around those topics. So it's like not everything was done in just like a week period, basically, which is like how I prefer to do podcasting. I don't love super intense batching. So that's what you'll be getting on the podcast again. Like you're already at the like end of seeing this all play out as you're listening to this, but like that's how I decided I wanted to do it. I really liked the plan. And again, that might not be right for you though, if you're a podcaster as well. For social media, I'm prepping business content to post that I can share whenever. And my team is going to be uploading the podcast graphics for each week's episode to our like social media scheduler. And then there will be like a reminder for me of like, okay, it's Tuesday. You know, I get a push notification at noon to like share about the podcast that week. And I'll do that. So everything's going to be set up to like share really easily in that sense. And so even though as I'm recording this again, I haven't had my maternity leave yet, I'm about to start it. But I already know like I'm feeling good going into it, like having all this prepared, knowing that like I don't have to record podcast episodes that I don't want to, which I might, you know, like I might have like, I could totally see myself in like September being like, oh, it sounds really fun to record an episode today. I have this content idea. And if so, I'm going to record it and then it'll air later, like after all these other episodes have aired, which is really great. So I just didn't want to have that like, oh, you got to do this. Like you're trying to enjoy time with your newborn. You're trying to take time off and rest and recover from birth and then having like business to-do list. I knew I didn't want to do that. So content-wise, think about it. Like what do you want your business content to look like and prep it and get it ready to go ahead of time. All right, my fourth tip is to over-communicate the plan. So if you can't tell from what I shared in tip number 2, I'm into over-communicating the plan, hence my giant folder covering like all possible bases. But I think that's important because everyone needs to be on the same page about what is expected, what will happen. There needs to be like a free flow of information and questions, all of that. And we'll see if I lacked communication anyway when this is all over. Like that's very possible that I will look back at leave and be like, okay, I did not communicate this well enough, all of that. But I'm trying at least to make sure my team knows what we're doing, knows what the plan is, feels like they can ask questions, all of that. So for me, about a month and a half before my due date, I sent the folder to my team that had all these documents in them and I had them read everything before our next meeting. So I gave them like a week and I'm like, okay, next meeting, we're going to like talk about this, read over all of it. And the amazing thing about Google Docs is like people can comment on it. So it's like, as you're reading, if you have a question, add it as a comment on like the highlight the text, add it as a comment, whatever. So we had 2 team meetings dedicated to my maternity leave. And then I had a one-on-one meeting with each team member to talk about mostly just that leave. So really like 4 meetings total, like dedicated to maternity leave. And like I already said, I also contacted the main contractors via email and told them what to expect. Didn't have to have any meetings with anyone else about it though. Like the email was enough there. And I've heard stories of people not realizing their team was struggling during their leave without them, or they had questions that went unanswered, all of that kind of stuff. And I really don't want that. Like I don't want anyone to feel like, oh my gosh, like they're so overwhelmed, head underwater with me gone. And I think we're setting things up well for that not to be the case. But I have heard a lot of people share that. And so like my advice to over communicate is from me hearing other people share they have that problem and being like, okay, I'm trying to avoid that. So over communication, really encouraging free flow of questions is a way I'm trying to do that. All right, and tip number 5, simplify areas of your business. So add in more systems, cancel things you don't need, make sure your team knows how to do all the important things that could come up while you're gone. So going back to my like first tip, this can start early. So like of why you want to start working on this before you're in the third trimester is this, so that you can go ahead and like get all this stuff set up slowly over time before you leave. And this is honestly good to do. Like everything I just said tips wise, it's good to do if you are never going to take any significant time away from your business. Like you need systems. You do not need to be the only one that can do things if you are at a point where you have a team in your business, and you also need to run a lean business. So throughout my pregnancy, I simplified. Like again, like literally every month, it felt like there was something else I was simplifying, making a system around, handing off to someone else, all of that. Some ways I did this, I actually quit working with the Facebook ads agency I was working with because I wanted to simplify. I also have mostly stopped running Facebook ads right now. I'm still running some. I might be running none during my maternity leave, but that was an area of like, I want to financially simplify and also have like less things to monitor and track. I created more systems around things that should have had systems but did not yet, which looked like, again, a variety of different things there. I made sure I wasn't the only one who could do some various key things in the business. Like even just this morning, here's an example of this. We had a podcast episode air. The show notes had a link in them that was wrong. And that's on me because I wrote the show notes that way and the link was wrong. And normally what I do is I just go in and fix it. Like I know exactly where to go to edit it. It takes like you do the edit, then it tells you it's going to publish it everywhere in like 5 to 10 minutes. And then I realized like, wait, am I the only person that knows how to do this? Like if this happens during my leave, and whether I notice it or someone else notices that there's something wrong in the show notes, am I going to need to go like get out my laptop and do this? And so I literally recorded a 2-minute video. All it took was 2 minutes while I fixed it, sent it to my team member who manages the podcast, Abby. And I told her like, okay, hey, here's something that happens sometimes. I normally just fix it. Here's how to fix it if it happens when I'm on maternity leave. Again, like I don't need to be the only person that knows how to do that. So basically just look for holes in your business leading up to the longer leave. Do test runs even. When we took our baby Moon to New York, so a little baby vacation, we did that kind of towards the end of my second trimester. I completely unplugged from everything that week. I'd brought my laptop with me on the vacation, but I never opened it for work. So I completely unplugged, and we kind of saw that as a team as like a test drive of like, this is, we're like, you're going to do this for longer during maternity leave. Like, let's do it right now for a week. And when I came back and we had our first team meeting, I was able to like ask, okay, were there any holes? Like, were there things you needed from me that you like weren't asking because I was on vacation? Like, how can we make this better? So if you have a little vacation during your pregnancy, that'd be a great time to test drive some of this. Okay, and then my final tip for you guys is to actually go out of office from your inbox and from other aspects of your business as well. Again, this advice is for me just as much as it is for you as I'm about to head into my maternity leave. But we've all probably seen that funny meme about the American out of office responder and then the European out of office responder. I'm actually going to read you what the meme says. So it says, Europeans out of office. I'm away camping for the summer. Email me again in September. Okay, that's what the Europeans are saying. American out of office. I have left the office for 2 hours to undergo kidney surgery, but you can reach me on my cell at any time. I think that's so funny. But my brain basically always wants something more similar to the American way. Not that intense, obviously, but more similar to that. But my heart and soul, and I think my new family, like my baby, needs that European way of like, hey, I'm gone for the summer. Email me later. And so I'd encourage you to really unplug from communicating outside of with your team member who's managing the inbox and other people who are like kind of in between you and everyone else. If you don't have a team member who's going to be managing the inbox, maybe that's something you hire before this leave you're prepping for. Or maybe you unplug all the way with a solid autoresponder that's telling people like, you are completely out of office and you are going to get back to them around this date and pick a date later than when you actually plan to get back to them, and to not expect a reply until then. Both work. Especially if you run a service-based business, I think without having a team at all, doing a really solid autoresponder like that is going to be perfect for you. I still, though, for me, because I'm not a service business anymore, I have to have my inbox still up. because of the nature of having an online shop business. So like we have customer support, we have questions that are kind of come in like multiple emails a day. But if you're a service provider, I think you could unplug from everything, even without a team there. So for me though, my plan is that I won't really be in my inbox. My personal email address, which we try not to get many emails to begin with, like I don't give it out to many people, but that one is going to have an autoresponder on it. And any important emails that come to that email, despite us trying not to use it much, my team member who manages the inbox is going to grab them and reply to them herself. But I'm not going to be in there except to maybe email with family, to see reports from my bookkeeper every month, and to stay on top of Etsy orders. And then I get some promotional emails that I like to read as well. And so that's really it though. And you're allowed to take off. Like, I just think like we all need to hear that more. There can be such a like, our business has to be 24/7, and it doesn't. You're allowed to take off. Your business will be okay without you, and time with your new family, your new baby, or this vacation or whatever it is so much more important than responding to every email in a super timely manner. You won't get this time back with your newborn. I've heard so many people tell me that of like, this is such a special time. If you regret anything, it'll be that you were stressing about a work thing, right? So I'm going to try to focus on that, focus on Adam and our new baby boy, and like enjoying this time and being so grateful that I've built a business that I can step away from, right? Because I know not everyone has that experience. Like a lot of new moms have to go back to work immediately, or end up deciding to like quit their job because they need more time with their baby or whatever it is. Like, so I'm super grateful that I own a business and can set it up like this, right? And I know many of you are in the same boat as me, is like you own a business too, and you can figure out how to set it up this way as well. So I'm really grateful for that. And as far as like income and finances and all that while I'm on maternity leave, I do have like, again, an online shop-based business. So like the business will still be making money even when I'm unplugged. There will also still be like basically the normal amount of expenses while I'm unplugged. So that's all going to like work itself out. And I hope to still have really great months in business while I'm out of office. Again, I know not everyone's business is that way, but that's kind of how mine's set up. So anyway, that's it. And I could give a lot more tips. This episode's already really long. And even when I made this outline, oh my gosh, I have 8 pages worth of stuff I wrote that I just kind of went through with you guys. And again, I plan to do a part 2, I think, of like letting you know how it went. And maybe I'll share more tips in that episode of things I learned, like actually executing this entire plan. And so I hope this helps though. Like this is kind of the episode that I'm like, I wish I had found this episode from someone else when I was pregnant, because I feel like I struggled to find like a really detailed, like here's how to plan your maternity leave type of podcast episodes. So I hope this can be that for you if you need that. And to recap, I want to recap those tips I shared. So the first tip I talked through was to start planning and prepping as soon as you have excitement and energy around your leave. So if possible, don't wait until the 3rd trimester. Like start early, start when you have excitement, and make it be something you're going to work on throughout your entire pregnancy. Tip number 2, make a master folder where everything for your leave lives, both for you to access and for your team to access, and then do those meetings like I talked about to really go through everything once you have it finalized. Tip 3 was to prep content ahead of time. Look at all the different places you put out content in your business, get it ready to go before your leave. Tip number 4 is to over-communicate the plan. Over-communicate to yourself, to your team if you have one, to your contractors, whoever. Make sure everything is really clear and that all those big questions have answers. And tip number 5, simplify areas of your business. More systems, cancel what you don't need, and make sure you're not the only person that knows how to do important stuff in your business. And then my last tip was to actually go out of office from your inbox and the other areas of your business as well. So that's it. And I'm going to come back post leave and again, give an update of how all this went and any additional tips I think up that might even air super close to this episode, because again, this is airing like kind of at the end of my maternity leave after I've been doing all of this whole time. So I hope you enjoy this. If you want more pregnancy content, I have a bunch of different episodes all about my pregnancy, both like 1st trimester, 2nd trimester, 3rd trimester recaps, Q&As, all kinds of stuff. So just scroll back and look for those. But yeah, I hope this was helpful, and I'll be back next week with another episode. Thanks, you guys. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast and all the way until the end. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to encourage you to check out my website where you'll find tons of resources to help you grow a profitable and sustainable business. Over on elizabethmccravy.com, you'll find free workbooks to help you figure out things like the best headline for your sales page. There's a freebie with my favorite journal prompts to start your day with, a guide on website essentials for all you coaches, and so much more. And you'll find my top business tools. Yes, I literally list out all the major ones for you on my website, and there are tons of special discounts and offers for you guys to snag as you try these products and services. You'll also find the main ways to work with me. First, through my Show It website template shop that helps you DIY your way to a strategic website for your business. These website templates are easy to use, they're gorgeously designed, and they have all the strategy I'm teaching on this podcast just woven into them, and I have a feeling you'll really love them. You'll also find my course and coaching program for designers, Booked Out Designer. In this program, I teach you everything I did to build an in-demand design business so that you can create a thriving business for yourself as a brand or website designer. So if all of that interests you, go to elizabethmccravy.com. To access those tools and free downloads, head to the tools page at elizabethmccravy.com/tools. And to see the different ways to work with me, simply click over to the Ways to Work Together page. I hope you have so much fun exploring everything over there. And don't forget that you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And leaving a rating and review for the show, sharing it with a friend, sharing it on social media are all great ways for you to support this podcast. Thanks so much, and I'll see you again next week.